Hello everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about the huntermate, which is the nifty device you get in the hunter for tracking animals mainly. Let me quickly explain why we have the huntermate. It's basically a tool that bridges the gap between the sensors you can use in real life, which are impossible to use in the game, or hard to use in the game, or hard to simulate. For example, looking at a track from a deer, just a hoof track. In real life, you can do everything with it. You can look if it's fresh. You can even measure it if you want to. You can look at how far apart the different tracks are, stuff like that. In this game, that's just too hard to simulate right now. So what they made is this nifty little device to identify a track, and it tells you some information about an animal. And the more tracks you identify, the more successful you will be in tracking down an animal. Now, just look at the huntermate. There are two buttons, an ID button and some sort of compass button. The ID button you can press by pressing left mouse button, like that. And the compass button you can access by pressing the right mouse button, like this. It opens up a map, which is displayed on your enlarged huntermate. It just basically shows where you are and what's around you. Nothing more actually. Well, if you've got the rangefinder, you can actually pinpoint a location. You will see a red dot where you pinpointed it. Don't use it too much now, but you can use that. Maybe in the future we will see more applications for this. Just exit this screen by pressing escape or the right mouse button again, and we're back. Okay, so you see a triangular icon, which is you. If I turn around, you see it, turns with me, so it's pointing in the direction I'm looking at right now. So that black thing is you. We're at the lodge right now, which is the icon I'm walking over, some sort, and then you see the 17 am in the lower left corner and the time in the lower right corner. Now, the 17 am is just the amount of meters I have walked in this session. So even if you walk backwards, it just increases. Be aware that some people they prefer feet instead of meters. To get a rough estimation of how many feet you've walked, just multiply by 3. In this case, if we multiply by 3, I've walked about 75 feet. A little bit more, but it's not that much of a difference. And the game switches between meters and feet every now and then, so that can be confusing, but just keep that in mind. Multiply by 3 and you've got the amount of feet. If you want from feet to meters, just divide by 3. Okay, the time in the lower right hand corner, this is the time in game, which is it starts at the time you selected from the website. In my case, I selected 8 and I retired and did something, so it's now 9:26 a.m. and time progresses twice as fast as compared to real life. So if you hunt for an hour in-game time, it's actually been 30 minutes, so keep that in mind as well. Okay, so let's just get walking, because this is basically the huntermate as it works. But to really show what it can do, we need to find some sort of track. Now there are, as I said, 3 kinds of tracks you can track down. The first one is the animal scat, or the poop, however you want to call it. They indicate how fresh a track is, or how near an animal can be. If I find one, I can show it how it looks, but it basically draws a circle around that spot of where you found the track. It can either be a solid circle, which means the animal is inside that circle somewhere close, but it can be all around you, 360 degrees, so you don't really know where it is, only that it's pretty close. And that circle expands over time. Well, that's pretty obvious because it gets less fresh as time progresses. Now you can also find a scat track, and it displays a dashed circle. It will not expand over time, because it means the animal is outside that circle somewhere, and the track is relatively old. So it's actually not very useful at that point. Now, the second kind of tracks you can encounter are just the normal, hoof tracks, the marks they leave with their feet. That actually gives you information about which angle the animal had at that time. Be aware that since the release of Logger's Point, animals tend to trot, which means they kind of run around a little bit, making tracking with their footprints quite hard, especially if you're a lower level. It's pretty much undoable at times. They're looking into it, so I can more or less guarantee it will get better over time again. But it basically gives you an idea of which way an animal went at that time when it left the track. Now, the third kind of track you can encounter are calls. Those are the easiest to identify, and I think the most useful to identify as well. Be aware that when you're a low when you have a low tracking level for that specific animal, it will display a circle of where the call came from. But if you're a low level, it can be off by several hundred feet in my experience. So you've got a rough indication of where the animal could be, but it can be really off. So just keep that in mind. But as your level progresses, especially when you're around level 20, it's more or less dead on from where the animal is. So it really gives you a good idea where you can find the animal, which is specifically useful if you're, for example, hunting whitetail and you get a buck call. They are usually alone, so you can really pinpoint where he is. You can set up a scent trap or just call him in and move away, and you really have a good idea of where to expect that animal. You need three different kinds, no, not different kinds, but three separate tracks to do what they call a successful track. Now, it doesn't really do anything for your level. You can just click any track you like and you'll level up as fast as anyone else. But if you really want to pinpoint or track down an animal, you need more than 3 tracks, because once you've got 3 tracks, it will display both the circle from how fresh the tracks are and the cone as in where the animal went. So you can more or less, take that slice of pie, which it looks like actually, and the animal will probably be in that area, especially if the circle is solid. If the circle is dashed, it will be outside that area, but still probably in that direction. So it's really useful for having that. Well, we actually now have to wait until we find either a track or get a call, which can take a while. I heard something right now. Here we have a call, I think. Yes, this is a white-tailed deer. As you can see, it displays some info if you identify the track. You identify by clicking left mouse button, and when you found the track, you can see the flashing paw in the left upper hand corner. Just scroll back if you didn't see it. In this case, it gives me a species, which is a white-tailed deer. It's roaming and it's a male. Now be aware that you only get the gender information if you're level 5 or higher when tracking for that specific species. So when you're level 1, you'll get the same image, but you don't get the gender, and it can either be a female or male. Now, most species are actually pretty easily identified by gender if you hear them, especially the deer kind of animals. They have very different sounding females and males. A male makes a grunt, which sounds a little bit like a burp, and females make a bleat, which sounds like a sheep actually. So that's pretty easy to keep them apart by calling. But if you're tracking, their footprints or their scat, then it's pretty much impossible to tell if it's a female or a male until you're level 5. Okay, just hit right mouse button right now, and you'll see the map and the general location of where the animal called me from, which is pretty far out there on the hill. You see the circle fading away over time. A call only gets preserved for so long, pretty short amount of time actually, but there is a nifty little trick that you can use